Welcome, welcome, welcome. Now, when you paint your really simple flowers, do you ever want to make them look a little bit more spicy, have a little bit extra pop to them instead of just the plain little blob flowers? Well, I'm going to show you how to do that in this video. We're going to paint some really simple flowers that are common in gardens. You can use these flowers as decorations for your bullet journal. You can use them on cards, tags. You can just use them as a warm-up if you would like, just to practice your brush strokes, whatever you want to do. But we're going to show you how to do some simple flowers and then add a little pizzazz with some water-based markers. Now, if we haven't met, I'm Viv. Welcome to Art with Viv, and I am using my new Tombow markers, and I'm just trying to pass on what I've learned to you. So let's get started. Now, the first thing I've done, I've got a little bit of really hot pink watercolor, and it's pretty watery. It's about I would say the consistency of milk, and I'm just doing a bunch of jagged brush strokes, and I'm sort of pointing them toward an imaginary center. And on that one, we're looking at it from the side, so it's more flat with a little bit of a rounded dome, but it's just a bunch of little brush marks put really closely together. And then I went and got some green, and I'm adding on the stems, adding on a few leaves, and also the little bud where the flower blooms from, the little base. And then I've got some purple, and I'm going to do some cosmos now. I have got an imaginary center, and I'm going to place these petals around that center, and all I'm doing is just doing sort of a jiggity jaggedy edge on the tips and just pulling it toward those centers. Now, these petals right here in the front, I'm making them shorter because I want the flower to look like it's at an angle. And I'm going to do another one. Again, I am going to just pull this purple paint toward that imaginary center. I want the outer edges to be a little bit jaggedy because cosmos have sort of fluffy or frilly edges on the tips of their petals. So we're just trying to get that, get that look in there. Also, you see I've left a little bit of the white of the paper showing in some of the petals. That just gives it a little extra something. And then I just made a little bud over there. Now I've added a little bit more dark green to my green mix, and I am just putting in some of those petals. Next, I've got my yellow, and this is a really bright yellow, and what I'm going to do is paint a marigold, and I want the center to be sort of yellow, and then I'm taking my orange while that yellow is still wet, and I'm just doing little brush strokes all around that center portion of yellow. Now this marigold is looking at us, so it's sort of round. And we'll do another one over here to the side, the same method, a little yellow for the center, and then bunches of little brush strokes all around the little outer edges, making it look really fringy. Marigolds have those really curly, wavy, just layers and layers of petals. Now this one, I want it to be like we're looking at it from the side, so we did the little skirt of orange, and then right on the top in sort of a dome shape, we just added that yellow. So it's sort of a half circle shape. It's because we want to make it look like we're looking at it from the side. I've added a little bit more blue to my green mixture just because I don't want all of the greenery to have the same exact shade of green. So I'm trying to change up the greenery. And marigolds, they have those really fringy leaves, so I'm trying to get some little fringy leaves in there, and all I'm doing is just sort of doing brush strokes out from a central line. And that's all there is to that. The next step, I have mixed up a nice purple, and now we have some beautiful butterfly bushes. I have some in my yard that are blooming right now, and the flowers are shaped like lilacs. They're smaller. The actual florets, the little tiny flowers on them, are actually smaller than lilacs. They smell heavenly. Butterfly bushes smell absolutely heavenly, but they are smaller, but they are the same shape. They're sort of a conical, like a Christmas tree shape. So you just want to do a bunch of little dabs and dribs and dabs, and make sure that it's skinnier at the tip, and it comes down and it goes like a triangle into a fatter shape at the bottom. Now, butterfly bushes also have long, slender leaves, so that's why I'm painting just some long, slender leaves on there. And there you go, we've got our beginning of our butterfly bush. So now I think I'm going to do some black-eyed Susans. And black-eyed Susans, again, just like we did the cosmos, we are going to have an imaginary center, and then we're just going to paint our petals, our flower petals, around that imaginary center. The difference with black-eyed Susans is their petals come more to a point instead of that frilly sort of squared off edge that those purple cosmos have. So you'll want these to be more pointed, more almost an elongated oval, and you want to, angle them toward an imaginary center. The one I just painted, I did that like we're looking at it from the side, so all the petals are sort of pointing in the same direction. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of brown and add that center part for the black eye of the black-eyed Susan. And even while it's still wet, and let a little bit of that brown and yellow mix right there in the center. And I think I'm going to paint another one here. I got a little bud up there in the corner, and all I did was just put a little dot. This one we want to be looking from the side, so all the petals look like a little ballerina skirt in that shape, just sort of going around the center, and they're all pointing down. And that just gives the illusion that we're looking at it sideways. And of course, you'll want to get your greens and just add a little bit of stem and just some tiny little dots, little oval leaf shapes on each side. It doesn't have to be perfect. Don't get stressed about it. It will be fine. And I'm just continuing that on down the stem. And then I'm just going to add a few leaves, just sort of peeking out from behind the petals of the flower. All right, let's see, what other flowers can we make now? We've got that one. How about a peony? I've mixed up sort of a coral color, and so I'm just doing a loose center and it looks like a comma. And then I'm going to start surrounding that center with these petal shapes, and they're sort of like real fat long ovals, and then across the back I'm just doing little arches, like little curvy shapes. And then in the front I'm doing a few more petals. I'm doing some that are pointing down. This peony is opening up, and then just a few petals, more petals behind to make it look really full, and just a few more petals here to the front where they're opening up, and a little bit here and there. Make sure you give plenty of white in there, a little white space in that center, so that you can really have the illusion that it's opening up. Then I'm just going to add some thick, fleshy green leaves to it that are coming straight out from underneath it. And it's okay if the green mixes with your pink a little bit, your coral color, whatever color you're making your peony, it's fine. I don't know, I went a little crazy with that leaf. It looks like a blob, but I'm not going to worry about it because I'm going to come with my markers and I'm going to fix it. Now let's let these dry. And once it's completely dry, then you just get your markers, and for the carnation or chrysanthemum, whichever you want, I think this is really supposed to be a carnation, but you just do jiggity jaggedy lines with your marker and sort of layer those on, and that right away gives it a little extra dimension, and it makes it look fluffy, like it's not so flat. Then I just took a darker green and just added some shadows down the stem, around the little buds, and on the leaves. Now we're going to do a yellow center in the middle of the cosmos, so I'm just taking yellow and just lightly putting it in there. Once I get that, I'm going in with a darker sort of a yellow ochre color and making a few more dots, and that just defines that center a lot better. And I'm coming in there with a little bit of purple, and I'm just giving a few little strokes, a few little lines right around that center to give it some shading, a little bit of line shading, and it gives a little bit more definition. And right away, it already makes that Cosmo look so much better. Now it's starting to really look like a flower. And then you can just take an even darker green. I'm adding a few more frillies on the edges of these leaves just to fill them out a little bit more with my marker, and then adding a little bit of shadow where I need to as well. And that will just give it a little extra dimension. So next up, I'm taking a deeper color orange, and I'm just doing lots of little tiny lines all through the flower going around that center. And I'm making sure those lines are pointed toward the center and in layers. Marigolds have really fluffy, frilly leaves, and they are just packed onto that stem. So that's the illusion you want to do. So just do tons of little lines and kind of little curls all around the flower, all around in that yellow of a darker orange. Then again, take a darker green and add a little bit of contrast to those leaves. And they are really starting to look good. I'm also taking a darker yellow just in the centers and doing a few dots, and that just gives it a little extra dimension as well. Now I am going with a deeper sort of golden yellow and just drawing lines out from the center of my little black-eyed Susan, adding a little bit of shadow to that little bud that's just opening up there. And that really does a lot for that. Now in the center, I'm taking a brown, a darker brown, and I'm just doing little dots all around that center, and that gives it the illusion of looking fuzzy. Black-eyed Susan's, the center is kind of fuzzy if you look up close to it. So we just want to get that little illusion in there. And then of course we're going to get another nice green as soon as I find one that I like. And we're going to add a little bit of darkness to it. That one's too light. Let's go with another shade darker. There we go. That's much better. And you just want to add a little bit of detail on those stems. Now you don't want to draw the whole stem. You just want to add a few marks here and there of the darker green. If you trace over the whole stem, then you kind of lose that effect of having 2 or 3 different shades in there. So don't do that. Just add it a little bit of spots here and there. Next, I have gotten another purple. Now this is a little bit of a reddish purple marker, and I'm just doing tiny dots all over the butterfly bush. Just tiny dots. I'm letting some of that original watercolor shine through. This is adding a little texture, and it's kind of defining each one of those little tiny florets that are in the larger flower. You know, it's a big cluster of flowers, of little tiny flowers together. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and get another shade of purple and just put that in there. Now this is a really pale lavender color I'm putting in there, and I'm going right toward the center because most flowers, when they're conical shaped like this, the center has sort of a dark shadow from the stem because everything comes out from that stem and it's shadowed. So there's a dark sort of line or shadow right at the center of those flowers. So I just wanted to add more purple there. Of course, adding a little bit more darker green into some of the areas of the leaves and down the stem. And next is our peony, and I am just going to take sort of a peachy coral color, and I'm going to start defining these petals just by putting sort of a shadow at the bottom and maybe a few brush strokes. I'm calling them brush strokes, just a few little lines up, and I'm making sure that my lines follow the curve of those petals as I do it. And that already makes it look so much better. And I'm just going to add a little bit more into with a lighter pink, just to blend some of that and to give it a third dimension, like a third value, a third dimension. And now we are just taking our dark green, and we are going to go ahead and add a few little lines like the veins of the leaves, a little bit of shadow, and again we are going with the curve of the leaf, how it's going. Inside I'm going to put some little yellow stamen. You know how peonies open up and in the center they have all those beautiful yellow stamen. So just putting that in there in the center in that open area, and a few darker yellow golden colors just to set it off and give it a little bit more. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed this. Consider subscribing, give me a thumbs up, and please tell a friend about it. I will see you soon.